All right, let's talk about the influence of China on Japan. And same as Korea, we're looking at some positive and negative impacts of the connection between China and Japan. One of the positive things is that Japan is pretty free from Chinese influence um, because China never actually successfully invaded China. They were influenced by China, but the Japanese were able to keep a lot of their main culture intact. So they did end up borrowing a lot of different things, but because they were never militarily, or AKA, they were never invaded by an army or a navy, they were able to keep the integrity of their nation. One of the things that they did borrow is the language. And when you're looking at the language, um, you are going to see something called kanji. And the Japanese language is actually separated into a couple of different alphabets. You have um, katakana and hiragana, which are individual symbols that reflect a sound. So, kind of like the English alphabet, where two letters might combine to make a sound, hiragana and katakana have that similar sound um, pattern. Whereas kanji, those are actually full words that can stand alone to read a word, or they can be combined with other kanji to make a different word. So the Japanese actually borrowed the idea of kanji from Chinese, from the Chinese alphabet. And so a lot of the language that you'll see in Japan is actually almost distinguishable by Chinese people because they use very similar characters. Additionally, you are going to see that Japan does actually voluntarily borrow some other cultural ideas. Um, and some of this includes some of their clothing choices, some of their weaponry, um, and generally some of their like their tea ceremony etiquette. One final thing that you're going to see positively influencing Japan is that the Japanese actually really liked Confucian and Buddhist philosophy. And you're going to see that a lot of places in Japan end up adopting those ideas. And in Japan, you'll see the creation of a lot of Shinto, which was the native religion, and you're going to see a lot of Buddhist shrines or religious temples. And with the Confucian philosophies, you're actually going to see the idea of moderation and balance really become key parts of Japanese culture. So that is borrowed from China. When we're looking at some of the negative influences, um, you are going to see a couple of different things because, again, China and Japan have a really messed up relationship over the years. One of those things is that um, they were unsuccessful in terms of making um, like so the Japanese borrowed a lot of different ideas from China, but government was not one of them. And the Japanese actually have this feudal system, so it's pretty similar to Europe, where you have your knights answering to a lord who answers to the king. While in Japan, they had samurai who answers to a daimyo, who then answers to the emperor. So the samurai would be the warriors, the daimyo would be the lord, and then the emperor would be just the divine ruler of Japan. And the Japanese never really adopted the civil service exam, which was the test that the Chinese took in order to join the government. In Japan, you were either chosen from among the nobles in order to continue to be part of the nobility, or you were just born as a noble and you inherited that job as part of just being in your family. So bureaucracy doesn't really take off in Japan at all. Additionally, Shinto, which is the native Japanese religion, is mainly what they practice. So they like Confucianism, they like Buddhism, but they still prefer Shintoism. Um, and finally, you're looking at the samurai and the daimyo, who are the regional leaders. And Japan is pretty separated into separate pieces, and all of those separate pieces answer to the emperor. But because they have all of these separate pieces, it's not really centralized. Like, it's not really in a way that it's unified. That's the word, pardon. Japan does not have a single leader that they really rally behind. Your peasants are really more loyal to a daimyo instead of to the distant emperor. So it's pretty fractured and it's pretty broken and very individualized. When you're looking at a map, Japan is actually separated into 4 separate islands. And just to make it easier, I did just outline everything as to one block. But Japan is actually separated into 4 islands: Hokkaido, Kyushu, Honshu, and Kanto. And based on your different islands, you're going to get slightly different temperatures. But again, at this time, individual land pieces are all controlled by different daimyo. And when we're looking at it relationship wise, you see that China is kind of close to Japan, but really you're looking at it being a bit more distant than Korea. And you would have to go across the water in order to actually try to invade Japan. So you're not really going to see a lot of success in terms of getting your armies over there. We will probably talk more about feudalism when it comes to the beginning of